It's not just another day in your life. Things are changing for the better. At Comcast, we see those changes, and we're thinking about how we use technology today to live, work, learn, and play. And we're building for the future now, so we're better prepared for the wants and needs of tomorrow. That's why Comcast is rolling out multi-gig internet speeds to more than 50 million homes and businesses before the end of 2025, making our already industry-leading network even faster, smarter, greener, and more reliable. Over the decades, Comcast has been your partner, working hard to serve your community, and will continue to be your partner. We're expanding our gigabits so you can enjoy the tiny bits that matter most.
I'm Brandon Jones, host of the Teen Mental Health podcast, It Is Not Your Fault.
And I'm Lambert Fisher, family therapist and host of the Diversity Dude podcast.
We're not always going to be all right, and that's what makes us human. Often, when we're in pain or even thinking of suicide, we may not want others to know, but you'll feel better if you talk to someone. And you can do that safely and anonymously.
We can recognize when loved ones are not okay. They bottle up, they isolate, they're angry.
That's why we want you to know about 988, Minnesota Lifeline, for someone you're worried about or even yourself.
Anyone with an emotional or mental health related need can call, chat, or text 988 for free, confidential support. You can connect with 988 to discuss difficulty with money, relationships, anxiety, your job, concerns about drug or alcohol use, grief support, figuring out your identity, and more.
You don't even have to identify yourself or the person you're calling about, and no insurance is needed.
988 is available 24/7 year-round and can interpret in more than 200 languages.
So take a brave step. Call or text 988.
Or chat at 988lifeline.org. You don't have to do this alone.
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And for those of you who are interested in even more positive and encouraging tips and strategies beyond what I share in podcasts like this, then feel free to check out my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, nationally recognized for the unique way in which it addresses the often difficult topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. Designed for more than just therapists, if you're a helping professional in any way, Diversity in Clinical Practice can help you meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible. And it's available in paper and audiobook versions for your convenience. And if you hadn't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it's been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself. And if you're encouraged as well, share it with a friend. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. So, today I want to share with you an encouraging perspective on embracing multi-ethnic cultural identities. So, following the decision of President Joe Biden to end his campaign for re-election, immediately followed by the decision to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris to be the next president of the United States of America, there began a concerted effort by many to learn more about who she is and what they can expect from her if she became the next president. Some of those efforts focused on identifying her position on key topics of importance to learn how she would lead the country, and other efforts focused on learning about her personally, who she has been, who she is, and who she will likely be. The combination of the two is where identity politics come into play, where people often make conclusions about what she will do professionally based on who she is personally. Why do I bring this up? Well, in recent weeks, some doing this exploration have brought attention to an apparent discrepancy in proclaimed genuineness of Vice President Harris's racial and ethnic heritage claims. They highlight that at times in the past, she has claimed to be the nation's first Indian American senator, as well as California's first female and South Asian attorney general. However, most recently, she has claimed to identify with the Black experience in America when communicating with audience made up of predominantly African Americans. So then, the question often becomes, well, which is it? Is she Indian American or is she Black? Well, while I'm nowhere qualified to give a scientific answer to that question, considering the implications of the question like this on conversations between family members, friends, colleagues, and more, I would like to share a few considerations that may contribute to a healthier conversation about multi ethnic identification. The first consideration is that it is possible and common to have more than one racial or ethnic identity. Statistics show that multi-ethnic couples are continuing to increase, leading to multi-ethnic extended families and more children born not just with two people from two different racial or ethnic backgrounds, but also more and more children born to parents who have multi-ethnic identities within the same person. Outside of the stats, even if those in your day-to-day lives all seem to be the same, if you keep your eyes open beyond your personal network, you are sure to see a changing demographic in our country, in many ways, our world as well. Not only that, but the DNA testing craze of the 23andMe's and Ancestry.coms have highlighted that no one is 100% one thing, as many seem to believe. No matter how dark or how light your skin may seem, I have yet to encounter the DNA test result that reveal that any person has been found to be 100.00% one race or ethnicity. Instead, it may be a large percent of one background and then a small percentage of a few others. The thing is, despite this reality, we still tend to focus on whatever the highest percentage is, or more realistically, whichever percentage is most consistent with what aspects of a person's identity they seem to look like the most. It's similar to an old practice called the one drop rule. If you're not familiar, consider that you have to go no further back than the period of slavery in this country to hear someone say, I don't care how pale you may be. If we find out that you have one drop of African blood in you, get in line with the rest of them. You see, interestingly enough, people think this is an old practice, and yet it's done unofficially every day in this country. Ask yourself, how many times have you heard out of someone's mouth that Barack Obama was America's first black president? Most say this despite the undeniable fact that while his father was from Kenya, his mother was white, making him America's first biracial or multi ethnic president. But most of us just default to black. Or consider Tiger Woods, who similarly expressed a preference for people to not just call him the best black golfer. First, he felt this way because he felt it was inaccurate, as he considers himself to be the best golfer, period. But second, because he was more than just black. An ESPN report once described how Tiger Woods said that he was one quarter Thai, one quarter Chinese, one quarter Caucasian, one eighth African American, and one eighth Native American. Tiger has described his ethnic makeup as Cablinasian, his own syllabic abbreviation that he coined from Caucasian, Black, American Indian, and Asian. And yet, for ease of understanding and convenience, many say to Tiger and many others like him, stop playing. You know you black, as if that was the only thing that mattered in his identity. This is applied to many multi-ethnic individuals, for it's possible and growingly inevitable to have more than one racial and ethnic makeup. Which leads to the second consideration, that being that certain aspects of our identity are more relevant at certain times than others. Since treating a person based on one aspect of their identity at the expense of all other aspects of their identity, simply because it's more convenient, has devastating consequences, then the question often becomes what aspects of our identities do they identify with most? And if so, if it's more than one, then our challenge is to embrace all of a person is rather than pin them to one particular thing at the expense of others. Maybe you spent more time with one side of your family. Maybe you lived in a community surrounded by people similar to one aspect of your identity more so than others. Maybe they've lived in one environment but worked in a different environment and felt compelled to cultivate multiple identities depending on where they were. What would be most ideal would be having the opportunity to be encouraged and supported in the effort to not only learn as much as possible about all aspects of our racial or ethnic backgrounds, but also to feel free to express them each and many in various ways without being accused of pandering to one's environment and not being authentic. In fact, this would be a more authentic way of living because it wouldn't require pretending as though one or more aspects of our identity don't exist to someone's based on what's comfortable for them, which leads to a third consideration. And that is that while racial and ethnic identification has the potential to influence perspectives and decisions, it doesn't automatically dictate behaviors. While it may seem inherently and disrespectfully racist for someone to presume and declare that a person is made up of one identity primarily and treating them accordingly because it's more convenient to do so, I also understand the unhealthy motivation that often contributes to this unhealthy trend. And this is the common belief that, if I can identify who you are and what racial or ethnic group you associate with, then I can accurately conclude who you'll seek to protect more so than others, which policies you'll promote more so than others, and essentially whose side you're on. Unfortunately, while our ethnic identification can indeed influence our perspectives and decisions, just as any other aspect of our identity, such as age, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, and more, we can all also strive for a healthy ability to consider the needs of those outside of our identified group associations. This healthy hope extends not just to racial and ethnic minorities, but also to people from all backgrounds. Most importantly at this time is that no matter who becomes the next president of the United States and no matter their various cultural backgrounds or identities, that they would hopefully take the time to learn about the needs of everyone, including those whom they identify with, as well as those whom they don't. Looking at it this way, being multi-ethnic has the potential to be seen as less inconvenient and more of an actual asset because that person may already had a long history of healthily seeing and valuing multiple sides of themselves, giving them a head start on seeing and valuing various aspects and identities in this country as well as the world. My hope for you is that you will continually grow in your ability to see a person as more than just one thing. There are many aspects of a cultural identity that a person may value, and that's worth getting to know. In part because doing so helps you understand that person better and all of their uniquenesses, but also in part because in doing so, you can learn to appreciate the many ways in which they identify with, empathize with them, and effectively meet the needs of more than just one group of people, way beyond race and ethnicity. And to help you do this and be less inconvenienced by the process of doing so, I encourage you to explore the many aspects of your own cultural identity, maybe beginning with race and ethnicity, while also including age, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, political affiliations, faith beliefs, and many more ways in which you can see yourself as similar to or different from others. Explore what family or experiential history contributed to those parts of your identity and explore what impact these identities and values have on your day to day interactions. I hope that in doing so, you'll be able to see others more effectively and be open to their ability to see you as well. In this way, cultural differences don't have to be something feared because it doesn't have to automatically mean that you won't be seen or valued or that your needs won't get met. Instead, you can see similarities and differences as both opportunities to enhance understanding and increase the likelihood that your and others' needs will get met in a greater variety of ways. And with that, I'll say thanks again for listening to today's Diversity Do podcast. If you have any pressing diversity-related questions that you'd like me to address on an upcoming podcast, or if your organization is in need of a shame-free and empowering guest speaker or training on this often sensitive topic, then feel free to reach out to me directly at www.diversitymadesimple.com. And if you know of anyone else who can benefit from a positive and encouraging perspective on this often difficult topic of diversity, then feel free to send them a link to this podcast so they can be encouraged as well. Or share with them my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, available at Amazon.com. And don't forget to visit TED.com and check out my talk on what to do when you offend someone. I hope it inspires you and that you will share it with someone else so they can be inspired as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible at work, at home, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house creating broadcast quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
If you live in an older home, it may contain lead-based paint on walls, woodwork, and windows. Even more bad news, lead exposure can be dangerous to young children and impact their brain development. And now, the good news. Hennepin County will fix lead hazards in your home at no cost to you.
We were worried because of the paint in the windows in the bedroom. They were peeling and chipping, and we know that when paint peels and chips, and it looks a certain way, that's possibly lead. We were worried for our children more so than anything.
Eligible homes can qualify for up to $15,000 in upgrades. You may even qualify for new energy-efficient windows. Don't worry, Hennepin County has a trusted list of pre-approved contractors. You won't even have to find companies with correct licenses or certifications.
I've just done a test and it's positive. So we know that this is lead-based paint, and then we know it's a hazard because it's creating dust every time this window moves and opens. And if you look in here, that's just full of lead paint chips.
You won't have to stay with your cousin while you're getting the lead out. Hennepin County even pays for you and your family to stay in a hotel while the work is underway. The last good news is how easy it is to apply. Just go to hennepin.us/lead control to get started.
I'm really happy with the program. We can go to bed knowing that our children are safe.
That's hennepin.us/lead control. Tell your friends about it.
I'm Brandon Jones, host of the Teen Mental Health podcast, It Is Not Your Fault.
And I'm Lambers Fisher, family therapist and host of the Diversity Dude podcast.
We're not always going to be all right, and that's what makes us human. Often, when we're in pain or even thinking of suicide, we may not want others to know, but you'll feel better if you talk to someone, and you can do that safely and anonymously.
We can recognize when loved ones are not okay. They bottle up, they isolate, they're angry.
That's why we want you to know about 988 Minnesota Lifeline for someone you're worried about or even yourself.
Anyone with an emotional or mental health related need can call, chat, or text 988 for free, confidential support. You can connect with 988 to discuss difficulty with money, relationships, anxiety, your job, concerns about drug or alcohol use, grief support, figuring out your identity, and more.
You don't even have to identify yourself or the person you're calling about, and no insurance is needed.
988 is available 24/7 year-round and can interpret in more than 200 languages.
So take a brave step. Call or text 988.
Or chat at 988lifeline.org. You don't have to do this alone.